How are you doing this morning? You know, in the research of doing this show, we found that, in fact, the circumstance that we're going to talk about is far more common than we even imagine for a couple of reasons. There are a lot of families where both parents are in the workplace, and daycare is a problem. Sometimes grandmas, grandpas end up taking care of the grandchildren for that reason. There are other circumstances, though. Some of them are a little bit more complicated. Some of the matters end up being permanent arrangements where grandparents end up taking in their grandchildren for one reason or another and truly raising them as parents. We want to talk about all of that this morning. Let me introduce you to Rose Cheriton. Good morning to you, Rose. Thanks for joining us. You're from the North Hills, right?
That's correct.
Are we allowed to give your age?
Go ahead.
Okay. You're a smashing-looking 59-year-old woman, and you are raising your granddaughter, correct?
Yes, I am.
And she is how old?
Nikki is 16.
16 years old. How did this happen?
Well, when Nikki was around 2, her mom and dad was going through a separation, and her mom wanted to return to school, college, and she was working. And I felt that at the time that we were moving to Pittsburgh and I will be no longer working. And so I decided that I would keep Nikki for a year and give her a chance to go back to school and work. And I had the time because I would not be working. So I kept Nikki for 1 year. And then I said, well, if you need a little bit more time, I will keep her for another year. And I kept her for another year, second year, third year. And then we got her in kindergarten and first grade, and she got established with friends, and we got her into ballet and dancing and different things that young girls go into. And we did not want to uproot her. And then we decided that we would keep her a few more years, and we did. And then when she got around 8 or 9, I said, would you like to go home and live with Mom? And she says, no, I like to stay with Grandpa and Grandma. So we have ended up raising her all these years, and she graduates next year from 12th grade, hopefully. And
we all keep our fingers crossed,
yes.
right?
And so that's how it came about, and I enjoyed raising her and being there for her because I am old-fashioned, and I think Mom, if it's at all possible, should be there in the home for the children. Now, I know a lot of parents have to work, but there are a lot of mothers who are working for material things. And that being there when the child comes from school, that love, that guidance, and I have felt that was so important. And luckily for Nikki that I could do this. And I could not do it for my own because I had to work when my children were coming along. But with my grandchild, it was not necessary that I worked. So I was there for Nikki whenever she needed me.
Did you have misgivings in having to work when your own children were growing up?
I did. Because as I said, I think the mother should be there in the home with the children. But it was not a choice that I had. I had to work. But
so was this kind of a way for you to do it right or do it the way you wanted to the second time around, an opportunity to raise your grandchildren?
It was my choice not to work. I could have worked. But since I did not have to work, I did not. So I was there at home for Nikki.
All right, let's introduce the gentleman sitting next to you, Tony Gruen from Brighton Heights. You are 51 years old, right?
A young 51.
A young 51. A handsome 51. You're a single grandfather, correct?
That's right.
Raising the young man that I spoke with earlier in the show, Tony. He is your 3.5-year-old grandson, correct?
That's right.
How did this happen?
Well, when Tony was born, his parents weren't married. Tony's father is my son. Excuse me. They wanted to put him up for adoption, and I couldn't do that. So I told him I would help them as much as I could to, whether it be financially or babysitting or whatever, including a place to live, which was fine for a week. And then I had Tony. That was 3.5 years ago. I now have permanent custody of Tony, permanent court order custody.
How does he refer to you?
He calls me Happy.
Happy. That's a great name.
For an old grouch, it's terrific.
Where did that come from?
I think it came from... I think it came from Pappy. And I sort of like Happy better. It makes you feel younger.
Do you want to go up and sit with Happy? Would that make you... Come on, Tony. Let's have two Happies here this morning. There you go. Go ahead up. Now things are right with the world, I suspect. How did it change your life?
Knocked it upside down. You know, I was 47 years old. And a little too old to be changing diapers and getting golden showers and teething and what have you, getting up in the middle of the night, things that I never did with my own kids. But they had to be done. I was fortunate. When Tony moved in, my two daughters were still living at home. Terrific help. The one since gotten married, and she moved away. And I still have one daughter living at home who's a terrific help with them. It'd be pretty rough without them.
Do you expect that you will end up raising him?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I have every intention in the world of that.
His parents now are... What's the situation?
His mother is in Maryland. Excuse me, his father's in Pittsburgh. And they see him occasionally. They're separated. Last time his mother was here, I believe, was around Valentine's Day. He saw his father on Easter. But it's not very often that he gets to see him. He doesn't know who they are.
He doesn't know who his own parents are?
No.
Happy, Uncle home.
You want to go home? Tony, would you stay with us just a little bit longer? We could probably rustle up some cookies, I bet. Would you like that? Might make things better? No, nothing. Okay, I'm running out of ideas. Anybody have any? Your son is his father, correct? Yeah. Is there a part of you inside that says, why isn't my son taking responsibility?
Sure.
Is that a disappointment to you?
Yeah.
It's a tough question to ask you because I know that the feelings must run very deep about this. And obviously your attachment runs very deep for Tony.
Oh, yeah. Very much.
But you feel that if your son isn't there, is not in the picture, you will be.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, no doubt about it. There'd be a big fight if anybody tried to change that.
He says with determination. To both of you, when it turns your life upside down, to suddenly have this kind of responsibility at a time when most people expect they're going to have a greater sense of freedom and they'll be able to visit with the grandchildren and send the grandchildren home after a weekend or after an evening or an afternoon. How do you deal with that inside? Is it because you believe you're doing the right thing that gives you a sense of purpose about this and makes you happy with the arrangement?
In my case, there is no alternative, no feasible alternative. The only other alternative would be for Tony to become a ward of the court. That's the alternative.
See, that strikes very close to my heart because that was the circumstance. I was a ward of the court because I was an orphan by the time I was 7, and I was raised by an aunt and an uncle and 2 cousins who took me in when I was 2, when my mother passed on. And then my father passed on when I was 7. And I always think, what would be the alternative if I did not have family members who would have taken me in? And to people who say, it's tough being raised by a grandparent, I mean, my aunt took me in when she was 55 and I was 2, year and a half, and did a great job. Good. And she will be 89 in May. And she's still rocking and rolling and giving me marital advice and all kinds of advice and housekeeping advice. And I wonder, in her case, I suspect I kept her young.
Yeah, that's the way I feel about Nikki. I feel that Nikki has kept me young, and I have done what is best for Nikki. Not concerned with her mother or myself, what I'm giving up. That's not important. What is important to me is Nikki. That Nikki has a chance to have the best things in life, the best opportunities, all the love that I can give her. And that has been my ultimate goal. My concern has been Nikki from the very beginning.
Is he keeping you young?
Got to. Got to keep me young. I can't, I think even the young man would have trouble keeping up with him. But I love a challenge.
All right, let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll open the phone lines when we return, and we'll come back out here into our audience in just a moment. Let's make a final introduction this morning. Dr. Robert Trivus joins us now. He is an independent geriatric psychiatrist who has 3 offices in Pittsburgh and is also affiliated with the University of Pittsburgh. Dr. Trivus, we have heard good reports this morning about grandparents taking additional responsibility of taking care of their grandchildren. Is it always the case, though, that there's a positive reaction?
Most of the time it is. If the grandparents have the nurturing ability, as they often do, because they're many times retired from the pressures of life that single parents are facing or dual working couples are facing. And they really do have the time to enjoy the children and perhaps even nurture them better.
What is the downside, though?
The downside are that grandparents usually have lived their lives and really want free time. So many times raising a second family is trying on some people, some individuals. It's not for everybody, and those that can handle it shouldn't.
Is it the most common arrangement that this is a full-time situation, or is it also common here in Pittsburgh where a lot of people complain that they can't find adequate daycare or that daycare is costly? This becomes a 9-to-5 arrangement.
Well, in some cases, that's true. With many working couples and the scarcity of preschool type of programs, grandparents often fill the gap, and that's to their delight and to their benefit. There's no question about it. So I would say that in many, many cases, they relate even better to the children because the generation gap just doesn't exist as much for grandparents as it does for parents.
Do you believe that's true? That is there a generation gap, yes or no?
I believe there is a generation gap in certain circumstances, but in another way, I feel that I am more lenient with Nikki and understanding than her mother. I think her mother is really more old-fashioned than I am, because when Nikki wanted to date at 14, I thought it over and we discussed it, and I said yes. And then I discussed it with her mother, and her mother says, no, I don't think she's ready for dating.
So who wins?
Well, she dated.
Nikki feels ready to talk now, and I'm glad that you're willing to share some thoughts. Is there a generation gap?
No, I really don't think so, because we have a lot of fun. We go to the movies and to the mall, kind of like sisters.
What is it like? I mean, do you have a lot of questions from friends saying, how does this work and who's raising you? I know I did when I was growing up. I didn't even have the same name as anyone else in the family. And that was difficult. And I had no brothers and sisters. And I had parents who had passed on. And by the time I finished explaining all of that, it was 5 minutes later, and I just got tired of explaining myself all the time. Is that complicated?
No, they really don't ask too many questions.
Is it strange? Is it different? Or do you feel any different from your friends?
No, she's just the same as anybody. She's better than some people's parents.
Because you got to date when you were 14 years old, right?
Thank you.
Let me just tell you, if I had asked my aunt to date when I was 14, the answer would have been no. However, I have found that as she has gotten older and as I have gotten older, now she's the one who says, why are you wearing your skirt so long? Can't we shorten those skirts?
I know. I don't know what
I'm not kidding.
I don't know what happened to us. And I had her mother ask me to date at 14, she would have never dated. So maybe because I'm a little older or a little more experienced, and I've taken considerations, and we talk more, Nikki and I, and we discuss the ins and outs, the pros and the cons. And I agreed that I felt that I could trust her, and Nikki confides in me quite a bit. We talk a lot, and so But her mom would have never dated at 14.
I
I
hear
don't know
you.
what has happened to me.
I hear you loud and clear.
I think the answer is, it might be called a little bit of spoiling. I know that's what it is in my case.
Is it spoiling, or is it just a greater sense of you've got things in perspective, you have
I think so.
age on your side, and in the
Experience.
grand scheme of things, you know which battles to pick and isolate on and which to kind of just let go?
I don't know. I think what we're trying to do, at least in my case, is do things a little differently than I did with my kids.
Right.
After you do things, you say, gee, I should have done this differently. Now we've got another chance. Right or wrong, we've got another chance. The only difference between the average grandparent and people like Rose and myself is the average grandparent, they can spoil the kid rotten and send them home with mom and dad. We can't do that. We have to face the consequences.
Because you're living with
That's
them
right.
day in, day out. Let's bring in someone from home. Lisa from Turtle Creek, good morning to you.
Yes, good morning. I had a comment to make. My grandmother has been very much a part of my life and her other grandchildren's lives. When my mother divorced the first time, when I was very small, she remarried, and my grandmother had to take care of me while my mother relocated and settled down with that second husband. She then took in my aunt and her husband and 3 children because of finances and helped raise those 3 kids. And when my mother got divorced for the second time, she didn't want me at home anymore and didn't want to help raise a child. And moved in her boyfriend, who she then married, and they live very well in Churchill. My grandmother is someone who lives on a fixed income. She's 72 now. And here's a woman who, because she wanted me to go to college, was doing private duty nursing to help put me through college and help pay for medical expenses and things, when my mother wouldn't even carry health insurance for me. When my grandmother tried to talk with my mother and say, she's your child, you only have one, I sacrificed so you could get an education. I raised 3 kids. I took in 3 grandchildren. You've got 1. My mother said, if you want her to go to college, you give her an education. You want her to have a roof over her head, you don't want her on food stamps or whatever, you take her in. And I think that these grandparents need to be commended because they've raised their kids, and each generation it gets tougher. There are more problems. And I have to tell you that when you are a child, no matter at what age, when your parent cannot or will not raise you, the feeling of just not being wanted is horrible, and you just feel like a burden to anyone and everyone. And I look at my grandmother, who's 72, and it's very hard for me to see. She's caught in the middle. She wants to see her daughter happy, and my mother's doing very well, but it's hard for her to see that her child didn't want to raise her own. Mm-hmm. And these grandparents need to be commended. It's sad, but it's, you know, you have to thank God that they're there for those kids.
Isn't it interesting, though, that you seem to have a greater grasp of the sacrifice and the proper roles here than perhaps your own mother does?
Oh, I definitely believe that parenting is a very self-sacrificing job. I mean, my grandmother, when my mother divorced the first time, my grandmother lost her husband in her 40s. She had an 8th grade education. She didn't even have a driver's license. She had to go and get her GED. She had to put herself through nursing school. And I wound up having to get my own GED. I did not have a place. I did not have a home. And it's a self-sacrificing job, and it's very difficult. This gentleman with his grandson, you asked him about his son and how he feels about that. It tears my grandmother up that her family's torn apart, that she raised a daughter that she gave everything to, who's had 3 husbands and has done very well for herself, who can cut off her child like dead meat. I've seen her twice in 6 years. And, you know, I'm not a homeless person. I work 2 jobs and, you know, live here in Pittsburgh. But you have a roof over your head, but you really don't have ties to anyone. And these people need to be commended because you, if it weren't for them, you really would be very much alone. You would be orphaned.
Trust me, I know that.
What our society doesn't seem to grasp or realize is that because a woman carries a child within her for 9 months does not make her a parent. A parent is a person who's carried you in their hearts, who sit up nights with you, who's worried about you. That is what makes a parent. Every person who becomes a parent is not a parent, if you understand what I'm trying to say. And most times, people do not realize that they are not a parent until they become a parent. And I think of all the other professions, doctors, we're trained to be a doctor. We are trained to be an electrician. But parenting is something we assume that we all know how to parent, and that is not true.
All right, let's take a commercial break. When we come back, though, I mean, I guess a question that comes out of this phone call is, do you worry that something went wrong in the way you raised your children? And you say that you're raising the grandchildren differently. Do you suspect that maybe you're trying to make a course correction here so they won't make the same with Big Tony, because we could hear all heck breaking loose outside this studio in his absence. So, things okay now?
Terrific.
Okay, good. We've got gum, we got a stuffed animal. Now things are a little bit better. You ready to talk?
Yeah, that's my father, and that's my nephew up there, and I'm 5 months pregnant. I'm married, and I really think that parents should start taking a little bit of responsibility for their own children, but if they can't, that's the next best thing to do, because at least they're with a relative who cares about them, who's going to raise them properly. But I'm going to have my own baby at home with me.
Good thought. BJ from Munhall, good morning to you.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Well, I'm 56 years old. My husband's 59. We're raising 2 grandchildren, 2 daughters, 2 granddaughters.
Full time?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, because, well, there's really nobody else to take them. Their parents, my daughter is an alcoholic. My son-in-law does not want to take the children. Now, we are getting some help. We're getting counseling because the children are hard to take. The oldest one is giving us a hard time in school. And we were wondering about a grandparents club. We could, you know, find some other people who are in our shoes, because we're really having a tough time.
Is it just the discipline problems and the...
Yes, and they really love their mother and father, and they kind of resent us. But we didn't know what else to do, so we did take them. And we've had them, we just got custody 2 weeks ago, but we've had them for over 2 years. And we're going on a vacation for the first time without them tomorrow. We finally found a babysitter. So it's really been hard.
All right, thanks. BJ, hang on the line here for a moment so the doctor can speak back to you.
In many cases, grandparents have done their parenting and really feel the need and require the need for some time off to nurture themselves. And it is not necessarily a job for every grandparent to take over the parenting of young children. Rose and Tony obviously have mellowed the conflicts that they had in raising their own children, have a perspective of time and of age and of wisdom. And they are able to nurture because they have a certain sense of self-satisfaction. But not all grandparents have that, and not because they don't deserve it, but because they haven't had the opportunity or the time. And you do need the time. And maybe by taking some of that time that you're talking about, you'll be able to come back and be a better nurturing surrogate parent than you've been before with the circumstances that you're facing.
What if it is a case where there is resentment, where the grandchildren don't want to be in that situation, maybe angry with their own parents for not kicking in and being there for them?
They are angry.
Excuse me, hold on one second. I think she's still on the line. You still on the line with me, BJ?
Yes,
All right. Go ahead. What did you want to say? Hold on, doctor. What did you want to say, BJ?
They are resentful because they feel like, you know, they just feel like they were abandoned, although we tried to make them feel loved.
Sure.
And my husband is really good with them. Now, he was sick this year, and he was supposed to go to the Persian Gulf. He's in reserves. And he was supposed to go to, and I would have had the total responsibility all by myself.
Yeah, have you had a year?
I have.
Let me just ask you this. How do they express their resentment?
Jennifer, the oldest one, she...
How old is she again?
She's 14.
Okay.
She wants to go out and doesn't want to say where she's going. She doesn't listen to our rules. The little one threw a temper tantrum the other day and threw a box at me, hit me in the head. and just things like this, you know. And then the father, they resent him. He has girlfriends. He will come occasionally and take them out for an hour. But because he has to send support here, we are getting support, by the way, a little bit of money. He resents that so bad that I think he takes it out on the children. And of course, I blame myself at first, but our counselor said no, that they've checked into our background. It's not our fault.
Boy, is this complicated.
So
you also feel, are you getting the accusation hurled of, you know, why do I have to listen to you? You're not my parent.
Yes, oh yes, oh yes. And then we have the problem too. We have, most of our friends support us, but we have a few who criticize us. These aren't your problems. Get rid of these kids. This is not your problem.
Oh, they're all hard.
Yeah.
All right, doctor.
The children have a right to feel resentment. They have been abandoned by their parents, but not by their grandparents. And it's going to take some time for them to get over this. It's very, very similar to the situation that stepchildren face in a second marriage. In the first place, they resent the fact that another individual has come in to take their daddy or their mommy's place. No one can really take the place in one perspective of a biologic parent, but in terms of love and in terms of the warm feelings of knowing that you're cared about, that surrogate parents, that grandparents can provide, that supersedes, that's really parenting. But the children have a right to feel the resentment, and they will feel the resentment, and it needs to be acknowledged. It needs to be acknowledged by you, and it needs to be acknowledged by them. And I did get the gist that your family is in counseling. I was going to suggest that sometimes these hurdles need an objective third party to allow everybody to ventilate and get some of the pressure off, and that might help the relationship considerably.
Counseling's important, especially in a case like we just heard, but one thing I haven't been able to find, and I've been looking for, is a support group for people in our situation.
I think maybe you all have to go about the business of founding one here in Pittsburgh. There are support groups we've read across the country. One as close as in the Philadelphia area, in the suburbs. So maybe you can get in touch with those people, because it sounds as if there are a lot of people who find themselves in your position. And I'll tell you a personal note, BJ, if you're still listening. When I was a little girl, I can remember this so vividly. I must have been 3 years old, maybe. And my aunt asked me to do something, and I didn't want to do it. And I turned around to her, and I remember hurling at her the words, "You're not my mother, and you're not my father." And then I thought I would do the most devastating thing I could think of, and then I called her aunt, because I called her mother. And I called her Aunt Catherine. And nothing happened. Didn't change. She didn't say, "Okay, well, you can do it, because I wouldn't want you to call me that." And I remember standing there and just thinking, this is not getting me anywhere. And she was just as cool as could be, and was always very reverent of memory of her own sister, and didn't have a problem with my calling her aunt at all, even though to this day I call her mother. And I think beyond that, those are just words, and when there's no reaction and that person is still a sustaining parental influence, it goes right back to the way it was, and there is an appreciation, an underlying appreciation that you were there for them, I'm sure, even though that's probably difficult to take at the time.
Yes, sometimes it is.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. But I still call her mother to this day. And there is that sense of deep understanding. I spoke to an adoption group once, and I said, it's the person...
The child was left at our home when he was a baby, and we raised him till he was almost 5. But the mother came back, my ex-daughter-in-law, as a rehabilitated mother, and got the child back. So what has happened, they ran with the child, and we have tried through the system to see our grandchild. So we have formed a support group for grandparents that do not get to see their grandchildren.
Boy, do you have the flip problem. Now let me ask you this, just because I'm curious. You said she ran with the